Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining Lunch Lab today. I am Sally Delisle, co-owner and director of trainings at ChildLight Education Company. Our mission is providing wellness education to create happy, healthy, and resilient youth and families. Today, we are talking to Ann Biese. Many of you may already know Ann from one of her many roles, either as my longtime colleague and friend, as a
Mhm.
yoga teacher and teacher trainer for ChildLight, and yoga therapist in Boston area hospitals. She has also served on the board for Go Give Yoga and has a new favorite role as a grandmother. So, Ann, you may want to add to that introduction. And we are here to talk about EFT today. We'd like to know what inspired you to begin the practice and sharing EFT. But before we hear that story, we really need to know what EFT stands for. So I'm going to turn all of this over to you and take it away, Ann.
Thanks, Sally, for having me on Lunch Lab. I hope you had your lunch. I had
I
mine.
did. It was
I did
delicious. Thank
too.
you.
I did too. So EFT is better known as emotional freedom technique, or the T also can stand for tapping, emotional freedom tapping, Sally. And just to give you a little history about it, I began using EFT in 2014, and I was introduced to it actually by a yoga colleague and friend. And I saw her tapping before our 500-hour training. And I'm like, what are you doing? And I kind of imitated her. And she goes, oh, have you ever heard of this? She goes, oh, I'm surprised, you seem like someone that would like to do it. And I said, what is it? And she told me a little bit about it. And then I went and told my daughter, and she said, yeah, mom, no, it's really super cool. She's like, I learned it from someone. And my daughter was like, I do it too, mom. And I'm like, well, okay, everybody's doing this. So, two people to me was like everyone that I know. So no, I thought that was really great that it was becoming popular back in 2014, I guess more mainstream, but it was originally founded and they believe by someone by the name of Gary Craig. And it was in the 1990s that they began the practices of using EFT to relieve stress, anxiety, tapping on the meridian lines is what you're doing. And it likens itself, Sally, to acupuncture. And I can tell you that, using it at first, I was just kind of mimicking what my friend had taught me. And then I realized this works. Like I feel better when I use it. And I would do it in the mornings. And what a great time to do it because you're starting your day, right? And the mind already starts going, I have this to do or that to do. And so you're already then putting together your life to-do list. But how great is it to come into it like yoga or our yoga practice of breathing or what have you, in a calmer way? And I noticed that it really worked. So then my daughter and I took a formal training in the Boston area together. And the training was so filled, Sally, that we were sitting on the floor, and the parking lot was packed. And I'm like, wow, who'd have known that everybody would want to be doing this? So that was already telling me that the popularity of this had increased from the 1990s, obviously. So I took a formal training in it. And then what I decided to do was we went on a trip with Go Give Yoga. You mentioned that I was served on the board of Go Give Yoga and a nonprofit that brings yoga to people and around the country and around the world. And I went to Haiti in 2014 and taught yoga, of course, but I also brought tapping on because I had taken this training in tapping with the kids. And they seemed to really respond to it and really, really like it. And we were noticing at the end of the week, the people that I taught with and that did the tapping with the kids, we kind of felt as if the children's behavior when we began to do yoga together, if we started with tapping, is they were more focused and seemed to be having much more yoga time was even more relaxing, it seemed. So we started the classes with tapping while we were in Haiti for Go Give Yoga. And then I just became a real believer after watching these young kids and teens, and the adults were practicing it with us. And some of the college kids that were with us were doing it. And you just began to notice a more focused and happy energy. And so that made me a believer just witnessing it right there. And then thanks to ChildLight, in the pandemic, I said to you, let's write a training for this, because then I was using it clinically since 2018 in the hospitals at Tufts Pediatric Floating Hospital for pediatric hematology oncology with the families and the children in cancer, in the cancer pediatric unit. And I think that that was a really great way for families, because a child that has IVs and things can't do a down dog, can't do. So it also really helped me get into those Meridian lines and help them and their families right in the room before they would have maybe a MRI scan, or, you know, a lot of anxious feelings come up when families are going through a pediatric childhood cancer diagnosis as a family. And I would use it with the siblings. And so again, I just kind of saw this proof that maybe this was working. And it was just my own, you know, hunch that the families were loving it. It was working. And so then I asked you and Megan if I could bring a training of such, because I became such a believer in it, especially in the pandemic. I was doing it myself. I was doing it with my yoga therapy teen clients, as well as yoga with them, but I was using emotional freedom tapping, our technique. So it was great.
So, Anne, you mentioned meridians. Not everyone knows what that means. Can you tell us a little bit about what is a meridian and how does that work?
So, for example, if you're tapping the top of your head in tapping is called 100 meetings points. So this would be a place where you might put an acupuncture needle. And the idea is that that is a line at the top of the head that runs down both sides of the body. And meridian lines are a Chinese medicine chart that shows that we have a yin and a yang side, which I know you're very familiar with all of this, and that our body is everything is connected, and that we can respond physiologically to, so for example, tapping under the eyes is considered a stomach meridian, and it releases things like, you know, stomach aches maybe for children, or nausea. I use this a lot in the hospital. So I may tap a little longer here with my kids that have nausea from chemo treatments. So yeah, so meridian lines are the idea that our body is one big, beautiful connected lines of energy, both sides, left and right, and that certain parts of the body connect to various other parts of the body.
So they're like highways that energy runs on. Can it be thought of like that? Or hoses where like a hose carries water and sometimes they get blocked or stuck. And by tapping, you can unblock the water so it flows. Or you can stop the traffic that's blocked on the highway so that then the energy flows.
That's a great
How
way
the
of
tapping
putting.
works.
Yeah, that's a great way of
Okay.
putting it. Stopping the traffic on the highway. I do EFT in the traffic. As someone who goes into Boston, that is one of my biggest stressors. So people are watching me sitting bumper to bumper going, what's that lady doing? So
Crazy
and I'm
lady.
telling you, it works. So if you are someone that lives and has to go through traffic, which we all do sometimes, it definitely works in traffic. But I explained it to, like you said, it's like a line. I explained it to one of my preschoolers who was playing with his Hot Wheels cars on a track. And I said, we're going to go down the tracks, and that's what it is. If you think about it, you're right. It's a roadway map to the body. And I like the way you describe that. So I want to borrow that, Sally. It is. It's like a roadway map. For accessing, it's like I can go inside here and access my stomach, my stomach, but I know when my stomach isn't feeling well, right?
Yeah.
So when I feel like I'm getting sinus pressure and different things to do with like sinuses, you would think maybe you would just tap here. Well, of course, that kind of helps, but that's not really the meridian for that. The meridian line for that can be side of the eye or right here, which is the major K25 point, they call that right here.
Mm.
So yeah, so we want to really look at ourselves as a whole being, and that everything has that, like you said, big line connection.
Everything's connected. Very interesting. So I heard you say that it can help with anxiety, it can help with focus, it can help with stomach aches. Could you share a few other benefits? Sounds like there are many benefits.
Well, yeah, and our bodies and our emotions are so very connected. And I think what we don't realize is that something as such of this, um, you know, we can release feelings of um, like we can have a feeling of anxiety, but maybe it's attached to the idea of a feel of failure or powerlessness. And they believe that like that meridian line is under the nose. So, it doesn't hurt to also tap on these emotions, feelings of frustration and things of and that's connected to the bladder and our lower pelvic region. But that's like feelings of frustration, hurt, and sadness are here. So, of course, when I'm working with kids or teens, I don't necessarily need to share, but I just have them tap there a little bit longer and
Mm,
see that would be where an acupuncturist might put some acupuncture needles if you were having that. So
interesting.
it connects to emotions too, Sally. And it's pretty powerful to realize that we have ways of being able to release not only, um, as you and I agree, the body keeps the score, as they say. But those feelings, instead of keeping them trapped inside the body, feelings of frustration, hurt, anger, loneliness, all of anything, we all experience those at times, depression. We all have those feelings, but just to think that we're having a place to give them a place to go and just let them go. So we have to look at it in two ways, both emotional, the social emotional connection we feel, and also the actual body release that we can give that emotion. So that's why I love it, just like I love yoga. So
It sounds like a very helpful practice for a small space.
yes, and that's what's so great. Exactly. Because like I said, sometimes in the hospital, although I do a lot of pranayama and, pranic work, and I really bring that into the EFT training that we offer through ChildLight, because that's always accessible too. But being able to roll out a mat in a small hospital space and do a down dog isn't always accessible. So that's what's so beautiful, is that you can combine the modalities and use them in a way that, like you said, is a small space, like there's traffic. So of course I do my belly breathing in the car when traffic is bad, and I start tapping typically right at the side of the eye. And I go, okay, it's all good. It's all good. And that's releasing fear I'm going to be late for work, rage and anger at people who cut you off, things like that, or honk at you. I'm like, hey, just keep tapping side of the eye, side. Breathe in, breathe out. Because those are normal emotions that happen.
Mhm.
So yes, agree, 100%.
And that's a more positive way to handle somebody that cuts you off.
Oh, you better believe it. And smile and say namaste.
Are there any cons or negatives to the practice? Are there people that should not practice EFT?
Yes, I think you need to know, first of all, who you're working with. And that's really important. And that's what I love about our training. Can anybody watch a YouTube video, Sally, and learn EFT, emotional freedom? Of course you can.
You can learn anything on YouTube.
Yes, you can. And even watch this lunch lab. But
That's right. Here we are.
exactly. But my point is, Sally, is that there are contraindications and there are certain meridian lines, absolutely, that you don't want to be addressing. And especially when we're talking children or infants. And I practiced EFT on my grandson, who is
Mm,
an infant, but we don't tap, we hold the positions. Okay.
interesting.
Yeah. So that's why I think trainings are so valuable, because a YouTube video isn't necessarily going to tell you those things. But when you've had trainings, which I have myself, and I specifically also trained with a woman who worked in pediatric cancer using EFT. So I trained with her in 2018 because I thought I'm working with a special population. And should I be necessarily tapping on an area where a child's port may be located so much here, right? So
Right.
I think that's why trainings are so very, very valuable. And that you're getting that knowledge versus watching a YouTube video and just going out and they're valuable too. Don't get me wrong, but you're not going to learn all of those things and safely bring a practice like EFT to someone you're working with.
Hmm. Good advice there. And you mentioned that you have shared this practice with your patients at the hospital, and you've practiced on your grandson, who's the most adorable human.
Thank you. He
Um,
wears childlike clothes.
I
He
love it.
looks cute in them, let me tell you.
He sure does. So let's talk about age ranges. Is this a practice that all ages and abilities can practice?
So I can tell you honestly, my grandson and a few infants in the hospital in the pediatric unit, I had used it with. But I've also worked with my mother-in-law, who's 91.
Mm.
And yeah, and she loved it.
Well,
So yeah, so that's the thing about it. Like, um, that's the beauty of it. It can be used for just about anyone.
so
So,
it's similar to yoga in that way.
oh yes, because it's adaptable and how much you tap. Yeah. And
Okay.
like for younger children, we learn in our training, um, you don't be you wouldn't want to be tapping on as many places as you would for an adult. It's not going to be quite as successful.
So the
So
length of the practice can vary and the places that you tap can vary. And did I hear you say that you add words to it as well?
yes, and that's how you also address EFT very differently. And we talk again in the training about Patricia Carrington, who came up with a technique to use the tapping and use the words of tapping. I think she lived to 98, and she was a very well-known tapper, Patricia Carrington, and she brought a lot of tapping in her time to teens, specifically that population. And I really appreciated reading her book and her information about it, because what she says is that um, you know we sometimes as adults we hold on to things longer, and typically, especially with children, to an address an emotion and a feeling of how they may be feeling. They may say, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm mad, or they use much smaller versus expanding and getting diving in deep as we do as adults. And teens also, especially when working with teens, teens want to know why this is helpful and what is the outcome. And the description of language of how we use it with them is much different than what we use as adults. So we
Okay.
use an I choose statement. And I love that. And I pretty much always use that with it's so nice to believe we have a choice, right? I choose. So I'm gonna when we do ours together, we're gonna use it that way, Sally. So
And will you share a practice with us now?
absolutely.
Okay, so
Was
what is
there
this
any
practice?
question?
Let's practice. Give us a
Yes.
little short demo and
So a little
tell us what
short
it's like.
demo. So this is what we use right here. It's called the karate chop point. See, like if you had a karate chop here, you kind of make a little C curve with it and you're tapping all along here. You can start on either side because just like yoga, we do either side. So see how this is your karate chop point? You want to take your fingers and put them kind of right in that karate chop. Let me see. There we go. My hands are. So it's like this, right? And then you just make a C with it so that you're getting, yeah, just like all of that. Just take a few deep breaths with me, Sally. Inhale and exhale. Inhale. Exhale. So I'm going to use something that I was thinking today. And it was, when will this rain end? We've had a lot of rain, a lot of rain in New England this year, right? And as I was walking my dog, I was like being a little negative about rain, even though rain brings us a lot of beautiful things. And I thought, okay, I choose to be sunshine, even in the rain. So you would use you use an even though statement. So even though I'm frustrated with all the rain that's been happening. And you would go here, I choose to be sunshine. So I'm making a choice, right? And that's what we use with teens as well. So I choose, I choose. So we go right to the inside here, side of the eye, under the eye, under the nose, crease of the chin. Breathe in, breathe out. Use that yoga breathing. And then collarbone. We'll go right kind of underneath the collarbone over to that side. And what I like to teach, and this is a ChildLight technique, is that we cross the midline. We cross the midline, which also sends a signal to the brain, as you know, Sally. And that came through and was inspired by ChildLight and how much crossing we do of midline in yoga as well. And then we do the 100 meetings point, which is all of them. And I use both hands. Inhale. Exhale. I choose to be sunshine. I choose to feel sunshine. All right, then we switch. Karate chop point on the other hand, the opposite hand. So inhale. Exhale. Even though all this rain has been making me feel frustrated. And then we use the hand, the opposite hand. Okay, opposite one. So we go. I choose to be sunshine.
When did I use?
Okay, there we go. I choose to be sunshine. There we go. Right to that inside kind of the brow here, right there. Breathe in, breathe out. Lots of deep belly breaths. And then side of the eye. Because you want to be on the other side of the face, right? Doesn't that make sense? Then we're going to do double tapping. So if you're in a real hurry, double tapping is the best under the eye. Even though,
That spot right there.
yeah. So this would be under the eye right here, as I told you, is that stomach meridian. So breathe in, breathe out. Then go under the nose. And under the nose is a governing line. So under the nose is both. It's a governing meridian like the crown of the head. Okay, see how under the nose goes both places? So this is brain, lung, stomach, heart, kidney, and skin.
Yeah, that makes a whole cycle.
Yeah, exactly. So breathe in and out. And then chin is the central meridian line, the yin, from chin down here. And this calms mind, body, and heart. So I do a lot of chin when I'm with my families at the hospital.
Nice.
Yeah. Breathe in, breathe out. And this releases confusion and uncertainty. And they're in a real uncertain time. right? Doesn't that make sense? And then we cross the other side and do the collarbone. So we cross over, yeah. Breathe in.
You hear my dog snoring?
Oh, see, he's so calm now. He's got his meridians all set. All right, so then what I'll do is we go here sometimes, remember? This is when I begin double tapping. I'll say we're going to really peace out here, my friends. Get your peace fingers out. We're going to really peace out. Yeah. And we're using both sides. So I say, take your peace fingers, bring them together, and we're going to do double tapping. Here we go. Breathe in, breathe out. Even though I'm really tired of all the rain and I'm feeling a bit frustrated by the weather, I choose to be sunshine. I can make the best of the rain. So you just say how you're feeling. I choose to be sunshine. The rain is good for my flowers. It's making everything beautifully green. It's good for the earth. And then you just kind of sit with it for a bit here, Sally, and just kind of go inward. And I'll say, just go inward for a moment. What are you noticing? Another thing I do with my patients is I said, now just pay attention here after tapping together. And keeping your eyes, if that feels comfortable, closed, or have a soft gaze. Staring across at an object, either choice for you. I want you now just to be listening and tap on a place. Both fingers again. So just tap on a space you'd like to be tapping on again. And flutter your eyes open and let's see where we're all tapping. Aha. So you're at the collarbone, Sally, which is kidneys and your adrenals. And that releases general stress and worries. Just blanket, yeah. And I'm on the chin, which you know is the idea with the chin is that we're at the central meridian line, like I talked about earlier. And that releases all the way down. This calms mind, body, and spirit because it goes straight down line. And that releases confusion and uncertainty, like the weather's uncertain lately. So I went there. And I'll just have you go to a place that you want to keep tapping. And then we talk about what that is. So, yeah.
Oh, I like that part of the exercise. That's fun too.
Yeah. You know, I have to tell you that it also has been fun because I've been with clients privately, which I teach on my private platform at Quiet Soul Yoga Therapy. And then we'll be even on Zoom, just like you and I, we might have been tapping on the same point. And when you open your eyes, you start to giggle. And I've had it clinically in the hospital where the families, 3 of the family members, the mom, the dad, and the child or the teen are tapping on the same spot. I'm like, well, what does that tell us? We're all going to release this and our meridians are going to be in a great place. Or I'll be even tapping on the same places they are. So, you know, that makes everybody kind of have a nice laugh that we're all going to be releasing the same kind of energy. So,
yes, that's a really nice closing to it all.
yeah, it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice smile. Yeah.
Thank you for that practice. That was really nice. You're sitting in a space or you're moving through your day and so much can be external or you can be in your head with that thinking brain, and tapping just makes you more aware of your body in
Yeah.
space.
Yeah, it
That's
does.
really nice.
Yeah.
I feel grounded.
Yeah, absolutely. You do. I think, I use the practice pretty much daily. And on days I don't, I notice that I don't. It's very similar to my yoga, especially in the pandemic. There was a lot of uncertainty.
Mhm.
And I started every single morning. And then when I kind of pulled away from it, Sally, when things started to open up and life began to feel more normal again, like anybody else, I kind of fell away from it. And I thought, whoa, don't fall away from that, and I realized one day, I was like, whoa, what is going on with me? And I went, do your tapping, do your tapping. So
Keep a good, healthy habit.
right. And you know what? Here's the thing, we can always go back to it. It's like getting right back on, getting right back on the practice of it. And it happens. We all fall off. But you know what? You've learned a skill that you have, and you have somewhere for that body energetically to release any of those types of thoughts, those feelings, those ideas, those uncertainties. Yeah, it absolutely gives you a space to put it.
And I can see people being a student, this would have really helped me in middle school, high school. You could step into the bathroom stall and take a minute, 2 minutes, and do that before you go back to school or back to
I've
work.
had people share with me, adults and some teens, but adults in particular. I had a teen clinically that would always be tapping before MRI scans. And
Mhm.
we would do deep breathing, MRI scan before their MRI scan, and tapping together. But I had a client I worked with that had a diagnosis of cancer as well. And she said she went in, like just what you said, she went into a restroom and went into a stall and literally just did a few nice, taps
Yes. Yeah. Super
because of the
helpful.
uncertainty of the news she might be receiving. And that
Right.
was, yeah. And she said, oh, Ann, I can't even tell you what that did. Um,
So, Anne, how can people find you if they want to learn more? How can people find more resources if they want to learn more?
yeah. So a couple of things to find me if you want to if you want to do a private session of EFT. My website is annbiese.com. So right on the website, it'll say email me and how to email me. And you can sign up for a private session, which I do. And, we talk about, first of all, what you would like to address. We go through it from a really great psychology aspect of what your goals are first. And then we privately tap and we come together with a sequence of tapping that would work for you. Exactly. And some breath work, because being a yoga therapist, the two are the best combo, our yoga breath work along with tapping. So if you wanted to do a private session with me or a family member, have a family member, just go right to my website, annbiese.com. As far as if you're a professional and you're an educator, you are a clinician in a hospital, you're an OT, you're a speech pathologist, speech therapist, working in any professional realm, I highly recommend our ChildLight training. I feel like our EFT training, we have trained through our training, Sally, which I'm really proud of us. We've trained professionals all from California to Arizona to Nebraska, I believe. I'm so many wonderful people all over the country. Florida, I remember one woman was from Florida. We've trained a lot of people. So, maybe even personally you want to take our training. It's a one-day training, and I promise you, not only will you come out feeling great, because we do a lot of different practices, and I go over the age categories, and we break them into age categories, Sally, because certain meridian lines are the ones most properly to use with ages 4 to 8, and then again 9 to 12, and then again the teenagers, and then up to adult. So there's really certain meridians, tapping sequences that you may want to come up with, and depending on what population or age group you work with, and that way you're getting really the true depth and scope of how it can work best with the population you serve or age of.
Nice.
Yeah.
for the whole lifespan.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Great, Anne. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I can't thank you enough for sharing your knowledge on this topic of EFT, emotional freedom tapping or emotional freedom technique. We appreciate you just so very much. And for all of you watching today, until next time, take good care and do good things out there.
And have a good lunch.
Yeah, have a good lunch. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for having me, Sally.
Anytime.